What is up, guys? Alex from ANAK here. Welcome back to another video. Today, I want to talk about mix feedback and why it's so important, what type of mix feedback you're looking for, and how to find the right people to give you mix feedback. This is something that I talked about recently in a podcast about mix notes, as this is often a time where artists look for feedback from other people outside of the project to help them give mix notes when it comes to finalizing their project. But this applies to mix engineers as well. Getting mix feedback on your mixes that you're working on for yourself or for a client from the right sources is a very valuable asset that you can get, especially when you're learning. So that is what we're going to talk about today. So I've been a mixer for well over a decade, and to this point, a very critical aspect of my mixing is to get feedback. I have my go-to people that I get feedback from, and each person has their different reasons that I get feedback from them, but I've found the basic people that I trust that I always know I'm going to get reliable feedback from. I don't ask just anybody, and I'm looking for something very specific when I'm asking for feedback. But it is a very valuable process, even if all their feedback is just to tell me that it sounds good and then I'm on the right track. A nice little thumbs up from the people that I trust goes a long, long way. However, it still is a critical piece of the process that just helps me feel better about my mixes, to catch any little things that are slightly off or that I'm just not hearing correctly or that I'm just too deep in the mix. The value of feedback from a reliable source and actionable that I actually can take into consideration and it makes sense cannot be understated. But why is it so helpful? If you've never gotten feedback from somebody or reliable feedback, this is why I find it so critical in my process. First off, when you're a mixer, you're mixing a song most of the time by yourself, all on your own, going through different options, making thousands of tiny micro decisions at any one point. How loud should the vocal be? Where should the guitar sit? What frequencies do I need in this element? What frequencies in that element? How much compression? Where do I need the song to go? How do I develop this part of the song? How does it not be bigger than the last part of the song? All sorts of different decisions that you are making. When you're that deep into a song, you need to step back. And I've talked about breaks and taking breaks from a song before, but even so, it's still your mind coming back to a song even after a break. It's still you hearing the decisions that you've made and the things that you think were the right decision. It's almost impossible after a while for you to, on your own, take a big picture view of something that you're working on. You're still going to be picking up on the little things that have been bothering you the whole time. Is that snare right? Is the vocal too loud? Is the vocal too quiet? All these different kinds of things that, because you're so ingrained in it, you might not see any other option because you've been working on it for so long. And this is where somebody else's opinion is very valuable for a couple different reasons. First off, it could be a thumbs up and an approval of, you're doing a great job, it sounds awesome, yeah, I have no feedback. And that is just as much feedback in itself. That means probably nothing's wrong. Your vocal's not overly too loud or too quiet because you've been hearing it for so long and you know it so well. Things like that aren't standing out to them. They could also give you some valuable feedback, such as bring the vocal up a little bit, it's too quiet, or the guitar isn't standing out as much as it could, or the drums sound small and not glued to the mix. All these kinds of things are like, oh yeah, I can change that by upping the room mic or turning up the volume of this thing. But the other thing that people don't think about is also the confirmation of the decisions that you're making. If somebody gives you feedback that's completely different to the vision you have for the mix, but you feel good about your decision when you are actually asked about it or countered in something that they're saying, you can feel more confident in your decision. If you get some feedback that says, oh, the vocals are really mid-heavy, you can say, no, that's exactly what I want. I want that kind of mid-heavy effect on the vocals. If you feel confident in that decision, then you know you made the right one, and their opinion is their opinion. You don't have to take everybody else's opinions, but it is a good way to strengthen your own opinions on the work that you are doing, just to call certain things into question and be confident in your answers. So whether you're getting feedback that says something, says nothing, or says stuff that's completely opposite from what you think, all of that can be a very good thing in helping the direction of your mixes. Now, I do have to say that not all mix feedback is created equally. There are people that just phone it in or don't actually care. There are other people that you shouldn't be asking for mix feedback because they know nothing and they don't understand. Now, that can be valuable in some respects, and I'll get to that in a second, but you need to make sure that you have somebody who actually genuinely cares about your success as a mixer or with this mix, or who actually listens to the song for you, actually takes the time to sit down, listen to your mixes, and give you feedback that you would expect. Now, with that, it's very valuable to have somebody that is actually a mixer themselves and who actually understands what's possible, what you might be working with to begin with, because feedback is all relative to what you're actually working with and where the mix seems like it's intending to go. And somebody who's actually a mixer can understand this and also give you good technical feedback as well if they have a more technical reasoning or approach to something that they think would benefit your mix. Now, on the flip side, somebody who doesn't know a lot of stuff could also be very valuable if you trust them. The two of these go hand in hand. I don't think it's either or, but having somebody who's not technically savvy can be great to give you a listener or a fan's point of view. What does the average listener actually hear? Instead of an engineer who's literally picking it apart and trying to figure out exactly how it's supposed to go. Now, a listener will give you broad brushstrokes. They won't tell you the vocal's too quiet. They'll go, I can't understand the words, or the song sounds boring and doesn't even go anywhere. These are indications that as a listener, they're not enjoying it that much, and you probably need to change something a little more underlying in your mix to try and alleviate some of that. Obviously, not everything they're gonna say can be fixed in a mix, but you get the point. Sometimes it can bring certain things to light that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. Now that, paired up with somebody who can give you more technical advice about what's wrong or what they think could be improved, well, that's a winning combination. So who should you be getting feedback from? Well, first off, who can you trust? Who do you actually trust to give you pointed advice and who won't just be dancing around the subject to not hurt your feelings? You need somebody that's going to tell you if they like it, but also somebody who's going to tell you if they don't like it and if they think it's not good. It's not very helpful if they never give you critical advice or tell you when it sucks. Then they're just stoking your ego, and that's not going to actually make you a better mixer. So you need somebody who's going to be honest with you. You need somebody who actually understands what they're listening for, who actually understands that this isn't about their own personal preference necessarily in genre or style, but in the song itself. Is it a good song if I were into this genre? The other thing I find is not having too many people that you get advice from. Having a handful of people that you can trust and that you can go to is really good, but getting too many people's advice can also be counterintuitive. It's not picking apart certain things in your mix, it's picking apart every aspect and a bunch of contradicting advice. One person says the vocal's too loud, the other says it's too quiet. Now, are you in the right spot, or is somebody right and the other person doesn't know what they're talking about? Then you have to weigh that out. So having a handful of people that you trust, that you know are going to be honest with you, and that you know actually care about the success of your mix is very important. Find people you trust and stick with them. Continue to use them. They know your mixing style, they know how you've improved, they know the style of things that you do and the decisions that you make, and they start to learn that as well, and not give you counterintuitive advice that they know you're never going to take because it's not in your style. For me, I have 2 or 3 people that I go to who I know are going to, one, take time to actually listen to my mix and give me advice and give me technical good advice, and that I know understand my mixing style and don't give me things that they know I would never consider anyway. And I've been getting feedback from them, and likewise them from me, for years now, and we just know each other's style, and that's so valuable. Now remember, you're not just looking for your best friend to give you advice, you're looking for somebody who's going to give you critical feedback, who's actually going to be honest with you and know what they're talking about. If they don't know what they're talking about, then this whole thing is completely useless. You don't want somebody who's just so honored that you're asking them that they come up with something to say. You need somebody who knows that there's nothing wrong with the mix or that they actually have no feedback, and to tell you that, because that is more valuable than somebody coming up with something just for something to say. And finally, one of the added bonuses of always having somebody you can send something to is sometimes when you're getting ready to actually send them the file, you can almost hear them in the back of your head telling you the advice you know they're going to give you. I often joke with a friend of mine that I always tell him to add more top end to the mix. So sometimes he sends me a mix and goes, I already added more top end, so let me know what you think. Just because we know each other's style so well, we've been doing this for so long, I sometimes already hear things in my mix as I'm getting ready to send it to him going, oh, he's going to comment on this and this and this. I'm already kind of taking a step back and can do that before I even send it to him, because I can basically already hear half of his notes. It's also nice to have somebody you can share it with that's not the artist that you're working with or anybody involved in the project, somebody else, to have that kind of added safety net. Because I'm sure we can all agree that sometimes you think something's super great until you play it for somebody, regardless of who they are, and you just feel that they're not interested or that the song's boring, and you hear it in a different light just because somebody else is in the room listening to it as well. It's a bonus that you can't really understand until you've done it and you've felt that, but it's really, really helpful to get there. But that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that gave you some advice and some understanding in receiving mixed feedback and where to find it, who to trust, and what kinds of mixed feedback you need. Now, if you are interested, I do offer mixed feedback on my website for you guys that does all of the things I just talked about, gives you actionable feedback for your mixes. I'm very honest and very upfront, not trying to stoke your ego, but give you critical advice that's actionable and actually understand why I'm saying those things to help improve not only only the song you send me, but all of your future mixes as well. So go to anakcreates.ca/mixfeedback to check that out and use the code HELLOFEEDBAck for your first mix for free. I will see you over there or in the next video. Until then, always be creating.